You said go, right?
No. Yeah, go, I guess. Yeah.
Go.
Hey, man.
Go.
What's going on, everybody?
Hi.
What's going on? We just decided to start this without even really talking about it. So thank you for coming to Cyber Unfiltered, where our green room is probably way more exciting than our actual talk on here. Also would get every one of us canceled, especially me. But today's a special day. Very special day. It was a special episode. If you have a kid in college, you've probably heard of Canvas. If you don't have a kid in college,
he's probably not in Canvas.
Yeah, that person's
high school too. It knocked my stepson out of a test.
I'm sure he was really heartbroken about that too.
Since he was at test preparing for college, he actually was. It was stressful, to be honest.
Okay. So you want to explain what it is? What Canvas is?
Me?
Sure. Because
it is the bee's knees, 500-pound gorilla of everything school for the majority of school districts, not just colleges. And I know everyone's talking about college because it happened during finals week. But think of grades, test scores, scheduling, all kinds of things. But it goes even beyond that from what I've seen on the high school side, from what I understand on the college side.
I have the stats. 41%. We're talking over each other. Sorry about that. 41% of colleges in North America and K through 12 and thousands of K through 12 districts use it.
Yep, we do. Obviously.
Yeah. So what happened?
So they had a little a mishap. We're gonna call this. I think one of these episodes we're just gonna talk about shiny hunters because they have their list of people that they've accessed is actually
impressive.
It's impressive. I don't want to say hilarious because that seems disingenuous, but yeah, it's impressive, and they just keep doing this. Also, they've hacked Canvas now twice in less than a year. Well, they got into their Salesforce last year.
Didn't they offer to help them understand how they were hacking, and Canvas just never responded or something like those lines?
So we'll go over the timeline just a second. But the what happened is they got access to their systems, stole 3.65 terabytes of data, covering 275 million records across 8,809 institutions.
Wow.
Then they had to take Canvas dark. But also Shiny Hunters defaced 330 login portals from a bunch of universities. So that's fun. And to make this all worse, Instructure paid the ransom this morning. Uh-oh. So we don't know how much that is. There's a lot to get to on this, but so let's kind of kick this off. I'll run through the timeline real quick and let's have some fun. So last year they got their sales. They got access to Instructure into their Salesforce. That was part one of this. They didn't pay a ransom back then, but here in May for Canvas, basically on April 29th, I guess we should go back to April. The primary breach happened on April 29th. They didn't know what happened. Instructure and Canvas. Instructure is just the parent company of Canvas. They didn't know what happened. They used a security vulnerability in the free for teacher account environment. And then they were able to move laterally from there to gain access into their full environment. Should that be possible? What do you think? Should that be possible?
Well, talk about a freemium model. We don't just give you a free account trying to sell you something. We give you a door right into our whole system.
There you go.
Yeah. Because it's a lower tier, guess what? People probably monitored it less. Oops. So they were able to.
It all.
Fair point. Yeah. They were able to take a pathway and they were able to access privileged API credentials and tokens and got into the broader production system. So basically they were able to move from this freemium model, like Matt said, to getting in the production system. Yeah. So apparently they also did actually gain access back into their Salesforce instance as well. So things they stole.
That's just embarrassing.
Yeah, no, I know, right?
At that point, that's sincerely embarrassing.
So they stole names of students, teachers, and staff, institutional email addresses, student ID numbers, billions of private Canvas messages, So we won't even go into what those could mean. Course enrollment information and data from Instructure's Salesforce instance, which apparently they haven't confirmed whether dates of birth, passwords, government identifiers, and financial information has been part of this compromised data. We'll see about that. That should come out there. That should come out eventually.
I would say most likely, because I do know that's something when we sign my kids up for school, guess what? It's in the database. So
Fair point.
That's fun.
On May 1st, so it started on April 29th. On May 1st, they Instructure publicly confirmed the incident, stating it was a cybersecurity incident executed by a criminal threat actor, and they engaged an outside forensics cybersecurity expert in law enforcement. So they said they engaged this on May 1st, right? That's what they said. They began revoking privileged credentials, rotating API keys and application access tokens, and deploying security patches to close the exploited vulnerability. However,
how many days?
But wait, there's more.
Yeah. However, this is all May 1st. On May 3rd, Shiny Hunters actually listed Instructure on their Tor-based website. So they actually listed everything. They said they had several billions of messages, everything like that. Cool. They set a deadline for May 6th to make contact with them and begin negotiations, threatening to leak all of it if ignored. And so Instructure just goes, they chose not to respond to those initial demands. And then they were largely restored to normal operation by May 3rd. Well, on May 7th, because they didn't respond, Shiny Hunters used the exact same breach, which apparently wasn't patched, to get back in, and they defaced 330 institutional installations worldwide, injecting an HTML extortion message that appeared directly on the student and faculty's portals when they attempted to log in.
I feel like we've talked about, what to do in a breach.
That's when they pulled the plug.
Make sure your backups don't have some kind of, in them.
But remember, they said that they got external cyber security people and they patched the vulnerabilities to come in and do that. And the message said something along the lines of Shiny Hunters has breached Instructure again. Instead of contacting us to resolve it, they ignored us and did some security patches.
Someone over there is very proud right now.
Yeah. So they said they had till May 12th to negotiate a settlement. And and then today, May 12th, it was announced, maybe not today, but May 12th, it was announced that, they paid the ransom. And during all this, they had taken the infrastructure offline. Like you said, your stepson couldn't do exams. Tons of colleges. I know Bob said that NGIT, which he's familiar with, had to cancel exams. Penn State, I think, had to cancel all their exams.
I saw something about MIT and
Harvard, yeah, MIT, Penn, Columbia, hundreds of universities. I mean, this is absolutely crazy.
Kids need that platform just to study if that's what the course notes
big
are.
Names.
Yeah. So I think, I don't know, I've kind of said this before, like the consolidation of things that we do, that we use, is becoming incredibly dangerous. We see this all the time. We see it with Amazon. We see it with Cloudflare when they have an outage. We see it with Microsoft when they have a major outage. Like, the impact is just incredible. And
so
41% of colleges in North America.
Was it Shiny Hunters that took down Blackboard also? I can't remember who took down Blackboard. Which is similar but different.
Yeah, I think for Shiny Hunters, I'll look and see, but I don't know I don't think it was them. I think it might have been.
Okay, because Blackboard's not as big, but there were similar repercussions there on a smaller scale.
Yeah. These guys had taken down Ticket. These guys were part of Ticketmaster. I think they were actually tied to Jaguar Land Rover as the initial access broker as well.
Listen, if someone's going to take down Ticketmaster, that's going to be the first one I don't find ethically questionable. Sorry.
Making friends influence people. Hey, by the way, next time you want to go to a concert, good luck. Anyway, so we've laid this out. They didn't respond. And then they didn't fix the vulnerability clearly. They said they've identified it now, but I mean, a little late because they did it. But let's kind of back up a little bit. Let's unpack a little bit around this. What do you think about them paying the ransom?
I want to hear Bob. I got mixed feelings here.
I think they're paying, they're paying the ransom because they can, based on the data they saw, if it got out, it could cause damage. We see that. I've seen that with other clients too, other people that have been breached where, yeah, the data is there. I have to try and mitigate this, and paying the ransom doesn't stop the data from getting out there, but we're trying. And unfortunately, people want to save the reputation of want to save face and say we're trying to protect your data, but obviously they didn't protect it. Now they're trying to recover it.
Cheaper to protect it up front. But unfortunately, this kind of validates Shiny Hunter's business model, and it is a business, legal or not.
What one of the things that we didn't really touch on too is there's something called FERPA, which is the Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act, and that protects the privacy of students. So this is probably a violation of that. So when does the government get step in? After this breach is over and stuff like that, they get step in, find this company, because clearly security isn't exactly their strong suit. With the Salesforce compromise last year, Salesforce now in here, this free for teacher vector where they just had something publicly available that was just less hardened, but it still had access into their main environment, right? So like, where does this go? I've heard at least 6 lawsuits have been filed already. We'll probably see more. So, and they paid the ransom. Did they pay it to a country they're not allowed to pay? We'll have to see that.
Time to ask.
I'm looking.
Yeah.
I'll let me know.
So I guess my what do you do in this situation? What do you do as a parent, as a student? What do you do? What can you do?
In this case,
no.
I think it's okay to be. So even if you homeschool, by the way, you can still end up touching these systems because you still got to go through some state hoops.
And then the local, homeschoolers do get local resources.
So personally, I would say it's hard to say what's actionable as a parent or a student on this one, except for raising hell to make sure that the districts using it are pushing back on having some actual security in place. Problem is, there's not a ton of competition for this kind of specialized stuff. They go vertical on a market, and these guys went very, very vertical on education. But got to hurt them in the pocketbook, whether it's the government or districts choosing to use them if this continues to happen. And I guess I shouldn't say if this continues to happen, because it did continue to happen.
I just did a quick search about FERPA and vendors.
Mm-hmm.
Vendors are not directly regulated by the U.S. Department of Education. They're contractually obligated to uphold FERPA regulations. They must operate as if they're bound by the same confidentiality agreements, but they don't have any jurisdiction to actually find them.
So there's no teeth. It's more of a suggestion.
It's for the schools itself to protect it. It doesn't trickle down.
Yeah,
So
they could fund the
schools.
school. Yep. But then the schools, I suppose, could turn on and sue, campus or Instructure for, violating that. I think we've seen I think the thing that's scary is we're seeing this attack on the education, but it's on kids. College age people are normally adults. I mean, they still could be kids, I guess, if you're gifted, but we're seeing an attack on children. Getting access to sometimes their social security numbers and getting access to a lot of that stuff, which puts them at risk in the future. So they may not be necessarily at risk now, but what about in the future? What happens if somebody opens up credit cards, ruins their credit? What happens if somebody steals their identity? What happens, all this stuff that we have to think about. And I don't know. We keep talking about these attacks. We keep coming back to this. When are they going to be held accountable? Truly accountable? Where's Congress on this?
Busy.
They're not busy.
I know.
This is the least productive Congress in U.S. history, and somebody get mad at me for that, but this is just the truth.
They are not choosing to make certain things a priority. This being one of them, and this is a big one.
We're sitting here and we're worried. Nobody seems to be worried. Well, they're sort of kind of getting worried about AI now at this point. We're like regulating AI and stuff like that, but like we're sitting here and just company after company after company that has access to private confidential data, they just don't care. And you can tell that because like the way that they're getting hacked is just, it's not, they're going to say sophisticated. They're the ones making the mistakes. They're making billions of dollars and they just don't care. How do you fix that? Punitive damages. At this point, I think that's the only answer, right? Hold. Maybe you have to start holding individuals accountable inside these companies.
Okay, so but Chris, if they have punitive damages, they're going to pay. Where's that money even going to go? It's not going to help. It's not going to make the people that have been compromised whole.
No. And hey, man, they're gonna get those 2 years, those 1 to 2 years of credit monitoring, though. Come on now, it solves everything.
I don't know. I probably got 45 years of credit monitoring if I stacked it all, everything I got right now.
Easily.
What? It's kind of coming down to this. This is kind of the rant, I guess, is the penalty is so low that you can be lazy, you can be ignorant, you can be negligent, and it doesn't matter because the money you can make off your product is way more than the penalty that you're actually ever going to face. And the problem is we're the collateral damage, not them. You know, these kids, these adults, these young adults that are out there trying to just get done with college or whatever like that, and they get their their exams delayed, which affects them. Like Bob, you were talking about this. Some people are supposed to be out of the dorms and stuff like that, and I'm sure this is like most colleges, and they couldn't even do
it's
that.
the last week of some of the classes, and they got to push everything off for a week. So, I'm sure people had travel plans.
So, what do you guys think's next?
The next breach?
No, just next. Where do we go? Where do we go from here? What is a lesson that? Let's go with this. What's a lesson that somebody listening can take? Because most of our audience isn't going to be like billion dollar corporations and things like that. They're going to be out there just trying to. They'll be small medium businesses, just trying to, exist.
Well, I personally think from an actionable standpoint, this one's kind of hard to advise on until we have details, because systems like this, you live in a district, you go to a certain college, you're forced to use it. Mm-hmm. But I think a really good lesson here is one of the complaints from students and parents was there was no backup plan in place. We all rely on technology. We all love how it helps the processors and procedures. But you know what? Sometimes, at least in a sense of being able to schedule a class or take an exam, maybe there should have been some kind of offline backup plan.
Everybody's pushing their stuff to cloud services, and you're right, Matt. No one really has a backup plan. If that cloud service goes away, everyone's kind of messed up. And I was just sitting here thinking, what if this breach had happened with QuickBooks Online, and QuickBooks Online went offline for a week?
That hurt a lot of people.
That would hurt a lot of people. But if you go back 10 years and QuickBooks was running on a desktop, I keep running.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I recall issues where you couldn't email an invoice, you'd print it and mail it. I know, the good old days, but there are ways.
You could take this further. You could talk about something like Stripe. What happens if Stripe got compromised? What happens if Square gets compromised? Yeah. Things like that. Like people can't, a payment processor in general. We've seen payment processors get compromised. Not one as large as Stripe, but like we've seen them over and over again. Mm-hmm. And like what we're doing isn't working. What they're doing isn't working. We sit here and we talk about frameworks, having a security program, having a plan. And then you see just over and over and over again, companies that can afford it just choose not to do it. Well, the answer is why. It's not financial. Because it's not financially. It's not a financial incentive for them to do it.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of us don't have that luxury. Small businesses don't have that luxury. So when we're sitting here and we have vendor concentration in our business, that's a danger. Bob, to your point, QuickBooks, right? If you're using QuickBooks, yeah, exactly. What's your backup plan if it's in the cloud? Are you exporting your cash flow statements, your balance sheets, all your customer information out of there too, to make sure you have a secondary, copy? Probably not.
Probably
Something
not.
to think about.
Something to add.
Yeah. Intuit obviously is a huge company. They're a public company, and you would expect them to be able to respond accordingly. But same with Microsoft, same with Google. But we have a large concentration in tech that we use, and the worse it gets, the worse these impacts are going to become. So,
and I think that's enough doom and gloom for this week because
well, let's.
It's not doom and gloom either, but it's the truth.
No,
it's the reality.
We have to have the hard conversations. Everybody.
Yeah. The
government down to these large corporations or even small corporations and the people, we have to have these conversations. I think let's finish up with this. One of the things I think that like Canvas should be held accountable to, Blackboard, things like that, is they should be required to prove their security to the educational institutions that are using them. Maybe a third party gets set up, kind of like how PCI is a third party. It's not a government oversight. It's a third party oversight for the payment card industry. Maybe they need to establish something like that for education that does oversight for all of these companies for them to do business with educational institutions.
I actually saw something within the past couple of years where there was an organization or a group or a community of universities that got together and actually had a formal process for evaluating vendors with with some standard checklists that they wanted done, assessment lists.
Let's make it universal though. Every college, every university, every public school, every private school. All come together, have a like I said, like the way the PCI operates, and make these vendors go through it. Make them prove their security, because the data that they have is incredibly dangerous to be leaked. So, all right, let's leave on a good note. Say something good that happened this week, Matt. What happened?
I got married.
That's right. There we go.
Yeah, I got a really cool. The camera's hard. I got a cool mountain ring since the wedding was in the mountains. There's no technology in here.
The snow was amazing, dude.
It was. I mean, we hiked in, we hiked out, wedding dress, suit. People thought we were nuts. Probably true, but it was awesome.
It's great. I noticed that she had sweats on when her dress was flowing. I saw some sweats.
she had leggings on because there's no way it was going to work otherwise. But she never wore the jacket or anything. About 50 degrees out, but it was sunny, and you're hiking up 1,000 feet, a mile. Dude, yeah, it was hot.
The boots and the leggings made it though, because like for the environment you guys were in. Yeah, you guys were in that environment. Like that was super cool.
We actually had backpacks with dress shoes in, but once we got to the top, it was like, no, boots are appropriate. And we had a freaking blizzard. That area got 31 inches days before we got there. So
they needed it though. They've been a horrible drought out there.
Unfortunately, even after this, they're still at half of what they should have had this year. So there's a lot of fire risk, and talking to a lot of locals out there, like they're pretty scared because that was probably the last hurrah. There's not enough water coming from the snow melt this season.
They're emptying a reservoir and it's killing all the fish and stuff like that because they got to dump it into another one because they're worried about it evaporating. So.
Water rights out there are crazy complicated. Like those of us on the East Coast have no idea until you start talking to locals out west.
Yeah, the drought's a serious situation.
But that's my good news, and somehow we went back to doom and gloom.
No. That's really good news. Next week, we may be shooting from a different location. It just depends on how you guys see this. But we're all getting together and we're talking a little bit of business, a little cybersecurity, a little compliance. Maybe we'll have something
we
new.
continue to get our educations updated.
Yeah, absolutely.
And honestly, it'll be an interesting conference. It's a security
It
conference.
will not be in Canvas.
No,
Not
no,
being
we'll be in
canceled.
Canvas. So on that proud note that we're not going to be in Canvas next week, you guys have a good rest of your week, and we'll see you next week.
Bye, everyone.